Hello YouTube, this is S.A.S Bushcrafters, and today I'm going to do a video about an S.A.S style survival tin. To make a few points before I actually get into the kit, you're always going to want to carry a survival kit with you when you go into the woods, no matter how long you're going for, like an hour, a day, doesn't matter. You're always going to want to have your survival tin with you. And make sure that it's something large enough that you can carry your necessary gear, but small enough that you're not going to leave it at home. I elected not to go with an altoids tin. Instead, I'm using this. This is a tin from the carry-on cocktail kit that I picked up at Chapters, and I find this one works a little bit better to hold in the contents of the kit. You're also going to want to build a kit yourself rather than buy a pre-made kit, because usually the contents in it are cheap, they're flimsy, they'll break, and when your life depends on it, it's worth spending the extra money on quality gear. So with all that being said, let's get started on the contents. The first one is the tin itself. Like I said, it's just a regular carry-on cocktail kit tin. In the S.A.S handbook, it says you should polish the bottom of your tin, so you can also use it as a mirror, but the inside of the tin's pretty reflective. It would work just fine for that. I mean, you could really, if you really had to, you could boil water in the tin, but it's probably not made for that, at least not repeated use for that. Anyways, the next thing you're going to want to put in your kit are water purification tablets. These ones are Aquatab, but if you can find chlorine dioxide based water purification tablets, get those, because those ones are all effective against cryptosporidium spores, which are really resilient to certain tablets. The next thing you're going to want to put in here is a whistle. This is just a P-less whistle for signaling. The next thing is a button compass. This is just a cheap little button compass. You can't do any major navigation with this, but it'll point north when you need it to, and that's all that really matters for a compass that size. The next thing you're going to want to put in your tin are some non-lubricated condoms. These are non-lubricated condoms. Took me a little bit to find those. But you're always going to want to use non-lubricated condoms for emergency water carrying. I guess you could use a plastic bag instead if you didn't want to use those, if you had a latex allergy or something, but in the S.A.S Survival Handbook it recommends non-lubricated condoms, so that's what I put in there. The next thing is a fire steel and a striker. This is just one I took off one of the cheap magnesium fire starters. You can make a little fire with it if you need to. The next thing in the kit is some emergency fishing tackle. There's nothing special in here, just some lines, some hooks, some swivels, and some sinkers. Because you can live a long time without food, but if you were really staying out, like you were lost for a serious amount of time, you'd be happy you'll have something to eat, catch a fish or something. The next thing in the kit are some matches that I broke the ends off so they fit in the tin better. I'm not normally a big fan of matches, but these ones, I've tried them. They're the UCO brand matches. They will work 100% of the time. They're actually advertised to work 100% of the time, and I believe they actually do. So if you're going to buy matches, buy good ones, and I definitely recommend that brand. And if you're going to put matches in your tin, always put something with which to strike your matches, because you'll feel pretty stupid if you have a tin of matches and nothing to strike them on. The next thing here, what do we got, is a wire saw, which I took the toggles off it. so it packs into the tin a little bit better. I don't normally like wire saws, but I mean, if that's the only cutting tool that you had, you'll be happy you had that. The next thing I'll talk about is this tea light here. So something for a little bit of extra light, something you can get a fire going with. It'll be good to have that. You can get beeswax tea lights that'll actually burn cleaner and longer than these cheap paraffin wax ones. But if you didn't have anything else, you'd be happy you had this. Next thing is some snare wire. Some brass wire, about 3 feet of it for making snares. If you needed to trap some small game for food. The next thing is a couple of sheets of waterproof paper. This is just Right in the Rain green paper. And with that I have a little golf pencil that I sharpened on both ends. You could also shave down the pencil for some tender if you needed to. The next thing is some waxed cotton thread and a couple of needles wrapped around a razor blade for making repairs and stuff. The next thing are some safety pins, gear repair, what have you, making emergency fish hooks. And the last thing here is a mini multi-tool. This is a Gerber dime. I'm not advertising this one specifically, but any little mini multi-tool will do in case you lose a cutting tool, which you never should. But if you lost a cutting tool, you'd have something in there. And the last thing you're going to want to put in your kit, apart from this electrical tape, which I'll talk about in a second, is some cotton wool, which you can use for tinder and to keep the contents of your tin from rattling around. The very last thing here on the table is this electrical tape, just some black electrical tape. And what you do with that is you wrap it around the outside of your tin with all the contents in it to keep the tin waterproof. And you could also use the duct tape for emergency bandages or shelter making. And that covers all the contents of an S.A.S style survival tin. But in the S.A.S Survival Handbook, they also recommend adding a few other items if you have the room, or you could put them in your S.A.S style survival pouch, which I'll talk about in a later video. It recommends a few things like some keychain sized LED lights. This is a white one. I know it looks blue on the camera, but it's a white LED light. And a red one. Some other survival resources say you should put a red one and a white one in your kit if you have the room, but if you only have room for one, go with a red one, because red light doesn't interfere with your night vision. A few other things you could put in it if you had the room would be some cordage. I mean, there's some thread there, but if you wanted to put some paracord somewhere else, you could do that. You could use, if you had room for a Fresnel lens, if you wanted to make fire using the magnifying glass, which I pity you if you try to do that, but if you wanted to do that, you could put a Fresnel lens in here if you had the room. And another thing some people say to put in here are bandages. This shouldn't replace a medical kit by any means, but putting a few bandages, an antiseptic wipe, and maybe a couple butterfly closures wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea. So if you were lost in the woods, you would always want to carry your survival tin with you, and always pair it with a good solid fixed blade knife and your S.A.S style survival pouch. If you had those 3 things, you would be pretty okay, I think. I mean, a survival situation is not fun. It's not meant to be fun. It sucks, but if you had just the contents of this one little tin, you would be in a much better place than if you didn't have the tin. So that's all for tonight. I hope everyone enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again soon with another one. Thank you.